Dear Lord, Make Me Beautiful is an evening-length dance work that for me is in a lot of ways a conversation between humanity and nature. It's also in some ways a conversation between the way that we look at the delicate nature of time and aging and all of the experience that goes along with joy and sadness and life experience. Every creative process is really different for me, so when the Armory commissioned a new work for me, actually several years ago, I tried to think about what I could do in this space that really kind of connected with who I am and where I'm at in my life. Whenever I'm creating a work, I try and find different points of inspiration, and one of the massive sources of inspiration for this work has been Richard Powers' The Overstory. That work is made up of several short stories, and a lot of the way that I'm hoping to approach this work is for an audience to have several different points of entry. You can follow one dancer's trajectory throughout the course of the evening, but you can also look at how they all start to come together in some way. To have an expanded cast of 16 dancers, I really needed to look beyond my company of AIM. And the company is involved, but I also needed to add maybe an extra 4 to 5 dancers to that ensemble to really hopefully showcase both this kind of larger idea of society, but also be able to focus on the individual. One thing I love about the drill hall is because it's so vast, any time that I want to focus in on an individual and focus in on the idea of isolation, it's that much more pronounced. And as someone who really is interested in how to think about and focus in on these ideas of kind of loneliness or what this kind of interplay in one's mind might be about feeling alone, it's so much more palpable in a space that is as large as the Armory and the drill hall in particular. We have a really exciting group of collaborators on this project. Some of them include first-time collaborators for me, James doing a lot of the visual design, Dan Scully, someone I've worked with for lighting and scenic design for over 20 years it seems like now, and Karen Young doing costume design for this project. yMusic is just a wonderful ensemble who I've gotten to know over the years. I choreographed to their music in the past, but this is my first time working with them on a new work where they're stepping into the composer seat.
So yMusic is a sextet which has a string side, so it's violin, viola, cello, and then a wind side, which is trumpet, flute, clarinet. There's a lot you can do with 6 instruments and 6 musicians and 6 people. There's sometimes we sound like a whole orchestra, sometimes it's just a real solo moment.
Our compositional process at the very beginning is collaborative, and so it was really fun to bring Kyle into that process and have him describe what he wanted the piece to be, how he wanted it to feel, you know, how he wanted it to begin, how he wanted it to end.
Yeah, having Kyle work with us as we're putting together music is really just like having another collaborator in the band. We already work with 6 people who have a lot of ideas, and having a 7th person there to help guide, but also influence the different things that we do has been amazing. We've been able to really alter things on the fly to fit his vision and create something together.
Kyle had so many ideas that he brought to us in the beginning of this creative process. He was really inspired by, first of all, aging and the process of getting older, especially as a dancer. He had all these incredible images for us of dust swirling and leaves swirling around the ground. And he was just able to paint through words and images and references and playlists and all of this really interesting stuff, just the kind of world that he was interested in, which was a really fascinating place for us to start musically, because we were able to kind of bathe ourselves in this influential world and then start writing from there.
We're working in sort of a less classical song form as something to hold on to for the audience, and thinking about doing, you know, an evening length work for dance. Yes, there are a lot of different little sections, but we also were faced with needing to sort of knit those ideas together and to create things where we're create musical moments that we would return to, expand on, and just sort of think about differently from a formal perspective. And that's also been really interesting because we come up with ideas, so many ideas, so we have some that we're not using, and we have some that normally we would say, okay, well, we can make something that's like 5 minutes out of this and it'll be really awesome. And now that those sort of tidbits become a through line through the whole piece and end up being something that you can really latch onto emotionally, which has been a really interesting way to push ourselves as writers.
I think the goal of both sides of the art is to create something that is that people can understand in real time. Like, one of the most incredible things about temporal art forms like music and dance is that you can't go back and look at that painting for another 20 minutes on your own time. You can't study it later. It passes you by and then it's over. So there's so much work to be done from a formal perspective to make sure people like experience it in a real full way as it's happening. And that's such a great, incredible challenge. And I think one of the lovely things about pairing music and dance is that both can sort of reinforce formal concepts of the other. So it's been a fantastic project to work with a choreographer like Kyle, who's so talented and has all of these incredible ideas that you can actually see, and then translating those types of ideas in a different way to something that holds together, you know, as a work of sonic art, I think has been such a wonderful challenge, and I really hope and anticipate, I can't wait to get other people's feedback on it and see what they experience as well.
What we're doing is theater, but the thing that's that much more important for me is that anyone that is in this space with us sees the humanity in the work. That's part of the beauty of going to the theater. You can be taken on a journey. Someone else can be in the driver's seat for however long. And I want to make sure people can have that experience.